said, you have to do abortions. Women need abortions, and you have to do them. Your dad did them, and you have to do them. And he did. And he started doing abortions because the patients said they desperately needed them. And eventually that became pretty much all of his practice, although he did still have a couple of family medicine patients.
And how did you end up working with him?
Oh, God, I started doing abortion care after the Salvi shootings in Brookline because I thought the doctors are going to all get scared away, so I better get doing this. And then, so he's known to everybody who does abortion care. And one time I was at a meeting and I walked up to him and I said, "Are you George Tiller? I want you to know you're my hero." And he said, "Yes, come and visit us sometime in Wichita." And so that's what I did. I applied for my Kansas license that day, and then I went and visited, and a couple of years later he needed somebody to help, and he hired me. I had my license all cranked up and ready to go.
And so how often did you go to Wichita from California?
I went there 1 week. I went there 1 week out of 3. I was there for a week, and I'd be home for 2 weeks, and there for a week and home for 2 weeks. Yeah.
And your reaction to his death yesterday, did the murder of Dr. Tiller surprise you?
Well, I mean, in a way, it didn't surprise me, because, of course, he knew that this could happen, and everybody knew it could happen, but did it surprise me? Yes, I didn't think it was going to happen. I just knew it could happen. I'm stunned. I'm shocked. What's going to happen to all those patients? Where are they going to go? We get patients from all over the world. We have patients. The walls of that clinic are lined with letters from people who said, "You saved my life." You know, what about those patients in New Zealand who are happily pregnant and find out at 30 weeks that their baby doesn't have a brain, or, you know, that their baby has something horrible wrong? We took care of those people from all over the world. What's going to happen to them?
Will you continue going to Wichita, to the clinic?
Well, I will, as long as the clinic is open. I just don't know if the clinic can survive this, because Dr. Tiller he had roots in the Wichita community that went back 2 generations. It took that to keep that clinic sort of operative in the environment of Wichita, where, you know, the mayor is anti-choice, the city attorney is anti-choice, so law enforcement, you know, had their hands tied. They couldn't enforce the law, and I don't know. I don't think that clinic can go on for too long without Dr. Tiller to sort of interface with the community. I have no roots in that community, so I don't.
I wanted to bring Ellie Smeal into this conversation, president of the Feminist Majority Foundation, and read you the comments of Randall Terry, the head of Operation Rescue. They said after Dr. Tiller's murder, Randall Terry said, "Dr. Tiller was a mass murderer. I grieve for him that he did not have an opportunity to properly prepare his soul to face his maker. Unless some miracle happened, he left this life with his hands drenched with the innocent blood of tens of thousands of babies that he murdered. Surely there will be a dreadful accounting for what he has done." Ellie Smeal, your response. You work with Dr. Tiller for decades.
Well, Randall Terry doesn't know what he's talking about, and that's one of our problems, is that there's such ignorance on this subject. And, you know, Dr. Tiller saved countless women's lives. Just as Dr. Robinson said, every day he was thanked by women whose lives he saved. He was a humanitarian, a person who, I think his family said it so well, he was dedicated to women and to women's rights everywhere. And he did what he knew he should do as a skilled physician. And Randall Terry has been a person who has been outside these clinics screaming and hollering, but he doesn't know anything. about really medicine and women's health.
How did you first meet Ellie Smeal? How did you meet Dr. Tiller? What has your work been with him over the decades?
Right. The encounter I remember the most is when his clinic was being so heavily picketed in '91. And I talked to him extensively about, I felt that he shouldn't close the clinic and that they wouldn't honor. They said if he closed it a week that they would go away or something. And of course he did, and that just gave them more steam. And they were outside his clinics for weeks. It was horrible. And he said, will you come? Because I had wanted to organize, because I know that the public support is with us and with him. And so we did, and he was amazing every time I talked to him on the phone, every time I've been with him in person. He is a gentle, unassuming person. I think often he really thought that these folks were just misguided, or they didn't understand, or they were being driven by a religion. He sometimes was too generous to them, but he always had courage. I don't even think he thought it was courage. He thought he was doing the right thing. And so anyway, we've been organizing. We do clinic defense work all over the country. We've tried to help him. I just so sad that we were not successful in, you know, our country this shouldn't happen in our country. The laws have got to get tougher, because you shouldn't be allowed to plague a clinic and clinic workers and a doctor like Dr. Tiller, picking at him day and night, screaming at him, when if they only understood what good he was doing. But I think that we have to say that story more. People got to understand why this is necessary.
I wanted to turn to a clip of Dr. George Tiller, who was speaking at an event organized by your group, Ellie Smeal, Feminist Majority Foundation. In this speech, Dr. Tiller talked about a patient that had a profound influence on his practice.
I'm a chromosomally disadvantaged person. I am XY, women are XX, and I am a woman-educated physician. This picture here is to indicate that one of the first people that taught me about the devastation that can occur in a family as a result of alcoholism, drug addiction. This is Hattie Mueller. She's been dead for about 30 years now, but she was one of my father's patients, and she did have 3 terminations of pregnancy before it was legal, and she explained all of those things to me. She explained about poverty, and she explained about abuse, and she had explained about alcoholism and drug addiction and how it impacted negatively the family. So I am a woman-educated physician in every aspect of my understanding about abortion and about responsibility of women in the family, both socially and financially. There are pivotal patients in everyone's practice. This girl on my left is 9.5 years old. She came from Southern California with her mother and her aunt for a termination of pregnancy. I told them that if she was too far along, I couldn't help. There were some stories in the newspaper about Dr. Tiller's getting ready to kill babies for a 9-year-old. I don't know how that happened, but I was trying to explain to my daughters, who were 10 and 9 at the time, about why I had planned to do this procedure. My 10-year-old daughter said, "Daddy, I was about 30 seconds into explaining about this, because, you know, these are 9 and 10-year-old girls that I'd had. And what Jennifer said was, "Daddy, a 10-year-old girl, a 9-year-old girl shouldn't be pregnant, and simply not by her father or her grandfather or her uncle." My 10-year-old daughter already knew about sex, about babies, and I, of course, thought that she could car date when she was 35 years old by herself. One of the things that my father taught me was that to be credible in medicine, You must require for your patients the same care that you would require for your family. I made a decision that if my 9- and 10-year-old daughters at that time were in that situation, I would do the procedure. I did it for this girl. It turned out marvelously. There were no problems, no complications. And I made a decision at that time that I was going to help as many people as I possibly could. And age was, if a woman was or a girl was able to get pregnant, we should be able to do a termination of pregnancy.
Dr. Tiller.